Today first we'll discuss about the exception handling. After that we'll go with the one more scenario with the Excel. After word operations, today we in Blueprint terminology, exception handling is nothing but we should not get any pop-ups. Okay, so suppose if you are giving invalid data, so what happened? There is a pop-up is going to become. Okay, that like that pop-up, we should handle it in the real time. You should not get any pop-ups. Okay, everything we can able to handle it. So by using the recovery and resume stages, we can able to handle it. Okay, we have the three types of exceptions we have. Internal exception, business exception, system exception. There are three types of exception: internal exception, business exception, system exception. Internal exception is nothing but because of lack of knowledge, those exceptions will rise. Like whenever you want to pass that data with the number, so you have passed the data with the text. Okay, like that. So the person who is going to develop on the particular use case, so you should have the good knowledge on the particular tool. So because if he give the invalid inputs to the particular stages, so we're gonna get the exceptions. Those exceptions we can call it as an internal exception. Internal exceptions will rise because of lack of knowledge. Okay, business exception. Business exceptions are nothing but, so suppose you have to enter the if there is a web page is there. So okay, first task is to get the data from the Excel, and that data you have to dump into the some web page. Okay, what happened? There is a mandatory field called phone number is there. Okay, in input data there is no phone number is there, so the field is empty in the input collection, input Excel sheet you can say. So those kind of exceptions are rise because of the business peoples. Like environment, we suppose yesterday we have created environment variables, right? So they will run the bot without giving any environment variables. Okay, so they didn't appear the proper environment variables, otherwise credentials, and the data, input data, invalid input data if they have given. So those exceptions we can call it as business exceptions. Business exceptions mainly rise because of the supporting peoples. Okay, if the input data is not properly they have given, they didn't update the latest credentials, and the environment variables they didn't upload it properly. So those exceptions we can call it as a business exception. And the system exception. System exceptions are nothing but, so because of the system server, like suppose system configuration, suppose you want to automate some browser, correct? So but there is no internet proper, you don't have proper internet connection, right? So because of the proper internet connection you can't able to log into the particular browser based application. So those exceptions we can say system exception. Exceptions which rise because of the system configuration we call it as a system exception. Okay, these are three exceptions we will be there: internal exception, business exception, system exception. Okay, so any exception will rise, so our process has to catch that exception and it has to send the email alerts to the concerned persons. So that is how you have to create your bot. I have taken the two data items now. The one. Number two. I want to do the addition of the two numbers, right? Number one plus number two. Number three. See, it's a proper flow, we'll get the result. Right, so I will do something. Refresh. See, exception has happened. So fail to evaluate the expression number one, number two, something is missing. Okay, So whatever the exception is happening, so we should handle it. Okay. So see, suppose the data also, I'll create the data with the text type, and I will try to add the data. See, exception as well. So you say internal exception, right? So these in the real time, any suppose we can consider, suppose there is an Excel is there. So in Excel having there are some 1,000 rows are there. Okay, in the 1,000 rows, in some few fields may have the exception. Okay, if any exception is happening, so it will wait on the particular stage. It won't go to the next page, right? So the power will come, it will wait over there. But we have to create the bot to it has to iterate every record, and at the end of the process, what are the exception records are there, what are the successful items are there, everything you can able to see. That is how you have to handle the bots. Okay. So as I told you, by using the recovery and the resume, we can catch the exceptions. Every process you can able to see this now. Whatever the process now I will create, so every process I will use the recovery and the resume. The real time, every page you should have the recovery and the resume. Main page you should have the recovery and the resume. Other pages you will raise an exception. Okay. Whenever you raise the exception in the sub pages, that exception will be catched by the main page recovery. This is called an exception bubbling concept. Okay. So we will see it one by one. Scenarios. You can say global exception, global recovery. Just naming convention and changing that's it. We can able to catch the exception details in between the recovery and the resume. Okay, take a calculation stage, double click on it. You can see internal functions, we have exceptions. There you can see exception details. Paste it over there. Done. See, whenever you are getting the exception, it will be catch with the recovery. The exception details will be stored here, and these details we're gonna send it at the end of the process, depending upon the business logic. See, the exception is catched. Okay, in this one we will gonna send mail them, right? So see, for suppose same logic, I will implement in the sub page. Consider you have implemented the logic in the sub page, and you are passing this page requires the 2 inputs. Done. So and you want to pass the result. So that is your business. Okay, business logic. So it will take the 2 inputs and it will send back the one result data item. Okay, so that is your logic. So if there is any exception happening in my sub page, so it will go to the main page. So that one I'm gonna explain now. Not only in this part of pages, suppose if you interact with any business objects also. So everywhere you'll get the page, so that exception will come to the main page. If you are not using the recovery and the resume, you will get the pop-up. So take a page difference stage. Next, add finish. So according to business logic, what should happen? So you should do the addition of the two numbers and it has to give the result, right? So take the two data items here, but pass in the inputs. And pass in the data 1 and the data 2. And I'm storing the value in the number 3. So this is the positive flow. There are no errors are there, so now I will run the process. See, now there are no errors, so this is how the process will run, right? We got it proper. 10 plus 56, 66, right? So now I will make exception to happen. See, in the exception happen in the sub page, so it has to come to the main page and it has to show the exception details. Data. That is my use case. See, that's come. So this is how the exception handling will work. Whenever the exception is happening in the sub page, it will come to the main page. If your main page is not handling the exception handling, so it will give the proper. So if you're handling the exception, so it will go to the proper way. Okay, this is how the exception handling will work. Okay, and one more thing. So this will be level 2. So I'll get one more subpage. Multiplication. I will do the multiplication here. Now I will get the positive path. So positive path is nothing but no exception. Now I will explain about the exception handling with the blocks. I will make exception in the addition. It's run. So see, there is an exception in the addition place. So now my process come to the recovery and the resume is closed. So my use case is that, so exception is, suppose is there any exception happening in the add page, so it has to do the multiplication. So okay, so in my multiplication I may have the proper data, right? So after any exception happening in the first stage, so my controller should not go to the end, it has to go to the multiplication. In the multiplication, if there is an exception, then it has to go to the this loop. So that is your use case. So that time what you have to do is you have to take a block and take recovery here. But see, in this logic, what is happening? So in this particular block, any exception is happening, this will catch by this recovery, not this global recovery. Okay, and after that, my control will go to the multiplication. So if there is an exception happening here, that will come to here. See, I will run it. See, now it is blocked. Right? So I got the multiplication result. Suppose is there any exception happening in the multiplication, what will happen? It will catch by the global recovery. So that is the concept. See, exception in the additional place, except in the multiplication page. So anyway, we are gonna use all the use case in the future classes. You can come to know exactly. So any questions? Let me know. Any questions?
function? I mean, are you capturing that?
Exception details. You can
Add, for add.
yeah, here I'm implementing my logic in the subpage add. So here I'm making the exception to happen. So that exception will be catched by this recovery. So if I want to explain about this logic. Right? Your voice is breaking, bro. Your voice is not clear. Pankaj. Can you message me? Still your voice is breaking. No.
Just assume that
Yes. Actually, network is not properly there for you. Just ping me. You can ping me the question where I will answer. Yes.
Just explain it again. I mean, the global recovery. So any exception with the add functionality also would be registered in this global recovery, global exception details.
No. Actually, here if I remove the block, it will catch by this record. In this, I am mentioning I am taking separate recovery in the block. Okay, nothing but any exception is happening in my this page, so it will catch by this record.
So if you don't give this block, what will happen? It will go to global recovery and the
Correct. Yes, global recovery. So first I already did the same. No? So first I have did the same like that.
so you're saying multiply won't be executed if add fails.
Correct. So my business logic is that so any exception happen also, so it has to go to the multiplication. So two blocks has to be executed. That is my logic. Suppose according to this logic, what is happening if there any addition ADD function fails, so it is catching by the directly global recovery, right? So if this one has to go to the next step, so I have to take the block stage and I have to put the recovery in the resume.
But if it goes to global recovery, there's no resumption. There's no resumption of things, right? It just ends. The program ends.
Correct. With the exception details. So here in the real time, what is happening here? We will put the name except mail, send mail alerts.
So if you have introduced exception handling, these three blocks is what
Common.
is required, right?
Correct. Recover in the resume, and by using the exception block, we'll raise an exception. Rising nothing but suppose yesterday we have seen the file existing or not. If there is no file, we will raise an exception. That will catch by this recovery.
So exception is just for the logging of the exception details.
Yes. So normally what is happening if you not handle the exception, your process will terminated and it will stop in the immediate session. Okay. So in the real time, how we have to handle the exceptions will come. Exception will come. We should handle exception handling is nothing but we are not completely overcome that exception. We are properly executing that exception and we are storing into some value and we are sending to the concerned person. Suppose I will open one of my real-time project. See everywhere I will use the exceptions. So see, this is the loop. Any loop, any exception is happening, so this will catch by this recording. And I'm adding to the row and I'm making the exception details and again I'm looping. This I am in the login pages. We should not raise an exception for one time. Okay, we will try 3 times. After that also we contact the login, then we'll raise an exception. This is also one of the use cases. This is how we have to do it. The other subpages we will raise an exception. And Pankaj, yeah, it will come to the main, but not with an exception. Okay, suppose if you are creating the recur on the resume in the suppose addition page, you have created the recur and the resume. What happens? Recurring in the resume. It will show the successful like that. So we will take the clarification stage in between. This is not a good practice. I'm not even recommendable. But for a use case, you can see. In the subpages, we will just raise an exception. You should not use a recur in the resume. They're asking, so for that, I'm just explaining. See what will happen. Exception, recovery, resume, then see, let's go to the next stage. It will get a successful result. So that's why it will go to the next stage. Now, see, we observe before we used to get the exception here, right? So my controller has to come to the recovery and it has to go. And now what is happening? We have handled the exception here only. After the resume, that exception will remove. Once again, after the resume stage, there will be no exceptions. Everything will get resetted. After resume block, the exceptions will not be there. Okay. So whenever see before what is happening, that before the exception will catch with the recovery and it will go to the multiplication stage. So what happened here? We have handled the exception, right? So when it comes to the main page, it will give the successful transaction. It will go to the multiplication like this, not this part. But this is not even recommendable. You should not use this. Yep, we should throw the exception. We should throw the exception. You have to throw the exception, then that will catch by the main. Right, we start with the one use case here. So yesterday's one only with the exception only. So I have an Excel sheet.
So you say there was another function called another subpage called division,
Uh-huh.
and if there was a exception in addition, we wanted to go to division and not multiplication. So can we do that through error handling?
Yeah, you can do that. No, suppose if you get any exception in the addition, you have to go to the subtraction. Directly you can connect it to that one.
So we'll skip multiplication in that.
Yes, it will skip multiplication. It will after recover after resume your process there will be more controller will continue that there will be no exceptions. In between the recover and the resume only you will get the exception details, not after that.
Okay, is there any environment variable which stores whether a subpage, I mean the functionality of subpage has gone through fine? I mean it's gone through fine and then only we execute the next functionality.
That one we can able to see now. Suppose if it is a successful transaction, it will go to the multiplication directly like this. Because we never use this logic anywhere, right? So if it is a successful transaction, it will go this path. If it's a negative path means getting exception and is going to this path. See here now addition, I will give the proper data. See addition executing properly executed. So it will go to the path like this. It's an exception. So it will go to the path like this. If it's a proper path, it will go in the straight line, right? So if it is a negative, if an exception happening, so it will catch by this recovery and it is going to this path.
Okay.
So we will take the garbage data. We will try to evaluate. See, this is my input data. I have only two sheets, sheet 1 and the sheet 3. So my input data is there. So variable 1, variable 2, variable 3, and I need to do addition and subtraction. If there any exception while I'm doing this operation, with that exception details I need to mark it here. Okay, consider this is my business logic. So there is an empty rows are there, there is an characters are there in between. So we can't add the characters, right? So we will get the exception. Why we get the exception? That exception you have to mark it here and you have to paste it here. Okay, so there are some empty rows are there. So like invalid. See, empty rows are there. Empty rows has to be handled, and this particular data also handled. And my process has to iterate every row. My process has to iterate for every row. Okay, suppose if there any, according to yesterday's logic, whatever you implemented, after this row comes, my process will get terminated. Why? Because this an exception will happen. Yesterday we didn't even do the exception handling, so today from today onwards we're gonna do the exception handling. So this is the exception, right? So and now I'm going to create a process from the start. So whenever you're writing the Excel file, what you have to do first, you have to create an environment variable. Why? Because so for my desktop path will be different, your desktop path will be different. So we'll make it a common environment variable in the system. So there we will update the path. In the real time also, like that only we have to do. Shift right click, copy as path. Now I'm gonna create environment variable. Create environment variables. Add variable. Excel file path 2403. It's a text. It's a combination of letters, numbers. So we have to remove the double quotations. Okay. Apply. So I have created a environment variable called system file path 2403. Excel file path 2403. Now I'm trying to create one process. Right. So how first we have to take the environment variable, right? So click on F8 and click on exposure, select the environment. See, environment nothing but read the corresponding environment variable from the system manager. So in the system manager, we have created that variable. So that one now we're gonna get Excel file path. Done. I have taken the environment variables, so I have the path. So first I will check file is existing in the particular path or not. That is my first thing. In the real time also same. So I'm doing that. This use case in my current project. If I get it to automate it, so I will do like this. Same way. First I'll get an environment variable first. First I will check whether the file is existing in a given path or not. Utility file management VBO. Okay, this VBO is available in the VBO folder, so you can able to import it if you're not there. File exists. So for file exists, we have to give the file name, right? So we already have the file name, file path here, drag and drop it. Output it will give the flag type. Then I will take a decision and I will check whether this is the true or not. If this is the true, then I will go to remaining steps. If this is the false, I will raise an exception. Because if there is no file, then there is no pointing of doing the remaining steps, right? So if this file is there, then I start doing my automation. MS Excel review. First action is the same, create instance. So if not there, I need to raise an exception. So in the proper, in what they only given the path, in the personal path file is not there, right? That is the business exception, right? So we have to mention here business exception. And here already I have created, so that's why it's coming while you guys are creating, so you have to write manual. Then creating instance, after that what you have to do, open workbook. For the open workbook, we have to pass the two inputs. One is the handle, the second one is the file name. Third one is the get workspace connection. For that, we have to pass the three inputs. One is handle, workbook name, worksheet name. Workbook name. What the sheet name? It's a sheet one. Right? We have to mention the sheet one. Right? So see, we'll run up to now. So whether we are getting the data or not, we'll just check it out. Refresh. So every page should have the recover and the resume. Local recover and the resume. And in between the exception details, we have to capture. After the resume, you won't get the exception details. That is also into the question. So any exception is happening in the particular page, so it will come and catch by my recover and that exception details will be shown here. So I will run up to now. This file is there, create instance, opening workbook. Plus I got the data. Right? This is the path to path. suppose I will edit the environment variable and I will check system manager variable Excel file path. This is the Excel. So I will do something here. I will add 2 zeros. In this particular path, there will be no Excel, right? This name there will be no Excel file. So see what will happen. They will give the brand details. So what will happen? As we already know environment variables, we can't edit it here. So there already I edited the values. So here that path was added. So in this path there will be no Excel file, right? So see now I will get an exception. Exception will be raised, catch with the recovery, resume, and so whatever the exception we have written here, I have written here, file not found in the given path, please check and return the path. So same thing will happen. File not found in the given path, please check and return the path. But because here I have mentioned in the except, this is the exception detail, right? It's the exception details. So as we are getting here exception details, that is why the same details has come. Any questions here? Okay. Yes, go for the next steps. So now I will implement my exact logic. I have to take the loop. So I want to do the addition and the subtraction. So take a calculation stage. So as we already know, so we take a block and I will run the process to explain about that is some still the path is not there, no? So we have to edit it, right? Yes. Put environment variables, apply, come to your tab, refresh, reset, and check the environment variable. See, it automatically has refreshed. This file is there. Yes, it's a breakpoint, so it has stopped. So we can use the breakpoints. And one more important question. So breakpoints you won't execute when we are running from the control room. If you are running from the control room, so your breakpoints will never get executed. So the process will go for the next steps. Only this is the developer arc, the developer debugging mode. So that's why we can able to execute this breakpoint. Okay. So now this is your data. So variable 1, variable 2, variable 3, add and subtraction I need to do. For action. We can put the multiply instead, so I will put it later. So first I will include the data here. So already we know that this is the text data, right? Text, right? So if you want to add the text to text, it won't get added. You can able to do concatenation, but addition we can't do, right? So for that, what you have to do, we have to convert that one into typecasting. Then only we can able to do. Control X. So conversions to number. Variable 1 plus variable 2 plus variable 3, and we have to store the value in the collection dot field name. So we can add it the text type, so it will be okay. It can store the number as well as text. It's about the addition. So same multiplication will perform minus sub subsection. See here, so one more thing we have to do. So when your loop has started, the empty rows are not removed in this logic, right? So we can remove the empty rows before the loop. Okay, so I will add one more block for removing the empty rows, because if input collection is having or not having, so we have to, before the loop we have to do the remove empty rows. For removing the empty rows, utility collection manipulation, right? Because I am working on the collection and collection out. This is the collection which having the empty rows, and after collection out means after removing the rows, so I want to store the data in the same collection. Done. Right, so I will take it and I will execute. So this is how yesterday we have worked. So see what will happen. So for the loop, we have to give the collection input. Here are no errors. Then see, the fifth row, the exception got and it got terminated. Only 5 rows executed. 5 rows executed. 6th row is empty, exception happened, why? Because there is a text in it. So this is the how the logic will work. So this one we should handle it, right? So I need to iterate for all the remaining 23 rows. So for that, what we have to do? We have to take the block. Exception I will cause in these 2 stages. So that is why I can cover these 2 stages in the recovery and the resume. So now how it what will happen, we'll see. And that is somewhat fast now. You can give the speed. See, exception has happened. So again it has loop. We are connected to the loop start. It will go to infinite 1 second. We have to connect to the loop end, not loop start. Sorry. Refresh, reset, and run from start. We have to connect to the loop end, not loop start. So loop start will execute only once. Loop end will loop it for every record. So now you can see row 7, 8 like that. It will increment. You connect to the start, you start again. Now 14 out of 23. And see the count. Done. You can open it and check. So addition subtraction has happened properly. The thing is that the exception reasons we are not marking it, right? So this is an exception is there. We are not marking. So how we have to mark it? It's simple. We have to take one calculation stage and we have to append that row. Update exception details. And here you can you can write the exception two ways. Either you want to write the exception manually, either you want to put the exception which Blue Prism is providing by default. Anything you can do it. Okay. Suppose if you take the exception details here, so what the Blue Prism is giving by default exception, that exception details will show into over there. So what's the field name? So exception reason. Exception done. Which now I'm taking the exception which Blue Prism is providing. Okay, if suppose I'm trying to do the addition here, so why I can't do the addition? Because of what? So that by default Blue Prism giving that exception. That one I'm storing now. See, refresh, reset. I'm running now. You can increase the speed to max. Now you can see the collection. So failed develop this, the Blue Prism is providing this exception. Okay, I don't want this exception, I want to write it manually. So you can double write it. Create this one, double quote, write invalid data. See, that's all right. So after getting the collection, what you have to do, you have to write into the collection, right? So what are the stages you have to perform? First, next one, write collection. You can see here, write collection action is there. For the write collection, these are the inputs you have to pass it. Handle, we have handle. Workbook name, we have it already. Worksheet name. So I don't want to paste the data into the same sheet one. I want to paste the data in the sheet. Why? If I paste the data in the sheet one, I'm removing the empty rows, right? So my data will come to here only. So remain these rows you can able to see. That's why I'm keeping the data in the sheet. Yes, should be kept. Yes, we have the collection. Cell reference from A1 means first cell. And into columns, yes. Done. Write collection. After that, save workbook. Handle the workbook name. And after that, we have to close the instance because we already opened the instance. Handle save changes to. There is one more option that save all instances is there. Save all instances. But what happened? Close all instance. If we do the close all instance, suppose the other excels are there, so everything will get closed. Suppose you are opening two excels and you are validating something. So you want to close the only that Excel, right? Not all the Excels. So that's why better to use this one every time. Close instance, not all instance. Refresh, reset. Now run. You can see the Excel now, or the Excel is open. If Excel is open, it won't try. So I will run its fraction of seconds. Done. See, this is your sheet one. This is the input. This is the output. So this will not happen because of there is the invalid data. Invalid data. So see, empty rows has removed. There are no empty rows. The empty rows are there here in input data. Now output there will be no empty rows. Yes, question please. No questions? Fine. So actually after this concept, I could have start with the work queues actually. So work queues nothing but I'll explain that with the work queues, but I won't teach this one. So this one I will teach after our business subject. Why? Because so like this will now we have used I have taken this data and I have done it and I have stored it into the Excel sheet. Your client has requirement that so after 10 days, how many we have successfully transactions has done, how many exception has done. So you want to give it in a report. Management information, you can call it EMI report. So those things we can't able to use if we take the loops. Okay. And by taking the loops, it will give more button on the server. Okay. So in order to avoid these things, so we'll have a concept called the work queues. Work queues is the internal configuration file, so which enables a process to manage its work. Okay, by using the work queues, we can use lots of things. So what are the exception items, how many days, everything we're able to track in the control. And if you have the more items, suppose there are 2,000, 3,000 items, it may hang sometime. Automated exception will happen if you use the loops. But by taking the work queues, you won't get those exceptions. The real time, depending upon the situation, we can go for the loops, otherwise the work queues. Actually, most of the companies, most of the clients will require work queues concept only. But before I was working with the Tech Mahindra, I used to use the loops. Now I work for the banking, so completely I'm using the work queues. Without work queue question, your interview not get finished. That is the truth. You should get the question from the work. Any questions? Fine. I will start with one more thing called yesterday we have discussed, environment locking. So same thing how we will do the environment locking for the things. So suppose there is a one Excel file is there. So two bots want to react. So two process wants to take the same Excel data, right, for writing purpose. Otherwise, you want to take the data from the different sheet from the same Excel. Okay, so those things what will happen? So we have to handle it. Otherwise, we'll get an exception. So how we can handle it? There's an internal video called exception locking. Environment locking, when the VBO is there, environment locking. So this is the environment locking review, which contains only 3 actions: acquire lock, query lock, release lock. Acquire lock is nothing but locking the resource. Query lock is nothing but we can check whether the resource has locked or not. Release lock is nothing but after you are done your functionality, you have to release the lock. Okay. So query lock, acquire lock, query lock, release lock. Okay. So query lock is nothing but, so these inputs you will have it before checking the file query lock. Okay. So first I will go with the acquire lock first. Acquire lock is nothing but I am locking the resource. Acquire lock. Right. So acquire lock, so you have to give the namings. So it will be the token. Okay. So after acquire lock, I will do my functionalities. So now after doing my functionalities, here I will release the lock. Environment locking. This token we already have, so you have done another token. So you have to give all the token values. In the real time, we won't use this one because we have concept called workqueues. But in the one work queue, you can have n number of bots can work on the same work. So acquire lock, the release lock. As I'm explaining for the interview purpose, they will ask you what is, suppose there are 2 resources you want to handle, how you can do that. So with the environment locking, is a functionality is there, you can use it. And suppose the different question is that how we can handle it better way. So what we do, we will add the entire data to the work queue. From the work queue, n bots can take the data at a time. Okay, so because if one item has taken the data, that item is going to the log stage so that it will take the data from the pending sheet. That is the concept of the work. Okay, that you can come to know when I start with the work concept. We have to practice before that, so that's why I'm not starting that. So there are some people who's not even installed the some software name, so that's why I'm not explaining that. So today I'll start with the one more use case. After that I'll close the session. Any questions you have, please arise. That from the exception handling also you will get some 3 to 4 questions in the 801 exam. Developer.
So if performance is a parameter, so how do things work out? I mean, we saw it took a long time for 25 rows. So say we have lot 2 million rows or 1 million
Correct.
row.
Correct. So that's why there is a concept called workqueues.
Sorry, for that.
Yeah.
So
So if you have more than 100 input values, you have to go for the workqueues. Actually, basically, what happened? Workqueues is that is not as that much simple concept. Okay, there are some institutes they won't teach you about workqueue. There are some confusion parameters that there were 2 or 3. So I mean, you with the simple basics so that you can able to extract it very easy. So there is a work is a big concept. You can do whatever you want. There are lots of features are there with the workqueues. Because of the lack of knowledge, the developer won't go for the workqueues. Why? Because client doesn't know about the blue prism, right? So whatever these people will convey them, so we will accept it. Okay, so if that thing is the case, then before now before 1 year and all, everybody used to use all the loops only. So now the peoples are changing. So they are all exporting about the workqueues. There are some manuals are coming, here and there. So that's why they started the workqueues.
okay.
Basically, if your input values are more than 100, you have to go for the workqueues. Whether you require reporting or that doesn't matter.
I mean, so you create an executable and give it to the user to use. How is it in Blue Prism?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
I'm saying you create a program, you give it you it goes as an executable to the client. So if
Yes,
the user and he also knows you already have the Prism installed on the system.
yes. The client will use just will give them demo. Actually, before that, actually everything will be there in the document, yeah. So before starting the as a developer is then 50 after 50% automation declare. After that, the developing start. So actually 60 to 70% everything in the documents only. They will only decide whether it can be automatable or not. So how much FTE, how much benefit for the client, how much manual people are taking the time. So how much with the bot, how much time we can able to take it. So architect is there, so he will give all the inputs for them. So after they have declared everything from the client building and everything is okay, then they'll be able to get the PDD. PDD is a Bible for the developer. As what is there in the PDD, so he has to go with that. Okay, after every session, we'll give a demo to the client how the work is going on, and if you having any concern, the navigation if you are doing anything wrong, so he let us. So first you have to go to that block. After that, take the details from there. Then after that, you have to go to this one. So everything will be in the PDD. According to that, we have to process. There is a uh, 3-4 testers will be there before they are running into the production. Some pre-authorized test, UAT user acceptance test. After that, production. And more some extra case something is there. So depending upon the client, they will run the environments. After that, the final one is the production, and everything is going fine and all the environments. Then they'll put in the production. Why? Because production have the live data, but because their business is going to be damaged if we do something wrong. So they will take care about all those things. And there are some projects will have the SLA. SLA means nothing but service level agreement. Suppose if I get a request from the particular user, so manually the people also will do in 1 hour. Within 1 hour, that has to be completed. With those things also you have to evaluate. So SLAs will be there for the banking clients mostly. So for the banking, current banking, so we have developed the bots for account opening, account closing, and the stock payments, CHS, ASH prompts. So lots of projects that we are working. Completely now account opening nothing but so the smart form will come in the mail. So we'll read the data from the Outlook, and the data we will evaluate. So whether we got all the fields are properly or not. After that, we will open one mainframe application called Fidelity. There we will raise the request for the account opening. Then after that, we will go to another browser site. So there we will give all these details and we will click on OK. So customer will get the mail that your account has opened. Within 7 to 8 days, you will get the your debit card or credit card something. And the account closing also, everything we can able to automate. So everything should be proper. The input data also has to be proper, and the documents, whatever they mentioned, everything has to be proper. And there are some service, every server there is a downtime is there. So when your bot has to run, so everything they have to decide it. So this is the proper time to run the bot. So that time only we will schedule it. Scheduling can do it. So in the control room they will do schedule.
So
So at what time you have to run and everything. Yes.
so the form that you will be processing would be an Excel file while closing or opening an account.
Not Excel file. That is the mail. From Outlook, we'll get the mail details. Like all the fields name and everything will get in the smart form. Smart form nothing but it's not like Excel. It's like in the body itself will have all the data. There is a separate direct reviews are there. We can directly extract the data from the Outlook. So no issues. Everything group is provided, yeah. But everything is ready made. So we have to just use the functionality. Right? So here we will schedule it. So we'll do schedule it. This board control will do all this. Board control will be there. Supporting is there. Actually, in the how the in the real time. So after releasing the bot, there is a bot control is there who is the responsible for just scheduling, and any exceptions will happen. So he will give the same. There's a actually if you run the control room, there's a see here there's a view log file. You can able to see view log. View log is nothing but any exceptions are happening, so everything will get filed in the particular file. You can that one you can able to export to the Excel. Otherwise, that one you can able to export the WordPad. So they will export them to WordPad and they will send to them L1 support. Okay, there are three people are there: L1 support, L2 support, L3 support, and the developer. Okay, so L1 people are from the client side, so they will just check it out, and if they can able to solve within 1 hour, within 2-3 hours, they can able to solve. Otherwise, they will give it to the L2 people. So L2 people also see if they can able to solve in 1 day, they will do. Otherwise, they will mark that one to the developer. So that is how the flow will be there. The developer will support for 1 month. After stabilizing everything in the production, then he will be the KD to the other guys, L3 support. So he will be the allocative what he has developed and how the flow is going and everything. So after that, the developer will go to the next project because billing issue. So as they are the developer will have the more billing, right? So now I'm doing the project with the architect. So that's ACH Scrum. It's support some 8 FT means 8 people are going to remove with that process. So one mainframe application is there, one browser-based application is there, vector exceptions and the fidelity. Any questions? So now we'll do this one use case with the WordPad after the time close the session. WordPad we won't use much, but it depends. There are some situations where you have to get the data from the WordPad and do the validations and that. So that thing you can use. So there is the data is there in the WordPad. So how to extract the data from the WordPad? That is our use case. So for that, so for interacting with the MS Word, so we already have a separate video for it. So you can F4 MS Word. If it's not there, you have to import it. Okay, you already know where exactly you have to import it. Go to the file, import, browse, and select the file. MS Word, here also you have to check the file is existing or not. That is the first thing. So path, you have to take the environment variables. Now I'm directly taking into the data item. While you guys are practicing it, please create an environment variable and get the data from the environment variable. File path. Shift right click, copy as well. So first, utility file management. file exist, file path. After getting the these results, we'll check it by taking the decision. Reject this, we will come to the next stage, otherwise it will raise an exception. Right here also in MS words, first one is the same. There are some two stages are different apart from everything is same. So create instance, then open. There open workbook is there, here open is there. Open for open file path you have to pass it. The handle. Already we have document name, we're going to get it. And here one more action you have to perform. Copy it to the clipboard. Just to select all. Select all is there. So actually, whenever in the Prism, whenever you copy some data, that will store in the environment called the clipboard. If you want to get the data, whatever you copied, you have to get the clipboard action you have to perform. Whatever you have copied in the Prism, that will copy to the clipboard. So if you want to get the data, what is there in the clipboard, you have to use the get clipboard function. Environment preview. Document name. These steps are common. If you are able to, if you want to extract the data from the document file, MS document file, so these steps are common. So copy to the clipboard. So next class also we will do one more use case on the MS Word. Just now today I will explain how to interact with the MS Word. After, as I told you, if we copy any data, so that will be there in the clipboard. So if you want to extract the data, so you have to get the clipboard action you have to use. So for that, utility environment in the video. Get clipboard. That's it. And after that, you have to close the instance. Close, directly close. And document. That's it. Then the exception into recovery, the resume. That's it. In between the recovery and the resume, we're gonna get the exception details. These steps are common everywhere. Done. We'll done it once. So file is there or not? Yes, file is there. So it go to the next steps. Open, select all, copy to the clipboard, get clip. See in the get clipboard output, you can see what is the document or data is there. You can able to get it. Eyes, happy Sunday. Any questions here? So we'll use the one more use case. The next class, we'll start with that one. Any questions, guys?
Hi, Chilu. I have got one question. I was just thinking, what is the limit of the data that can be stored into current value?
Data in the data item, you can store up to some rows. I can say, but the data, how much data is there, you can store. Suppose there are some 100 lines of data, it can store 100 lines of data.
So
see,
no limit as such.
Yes, no limit as such. But the data I can say this is the only data item. You can see this is the only data item. Email body, single data item. Click on here, so you can see complete data.
Okay. So in your past experience, have you ever got an error because of this, that this cannot be stored into a data?
Not this one. I got it for the Excel data. Excel, there are some cases while I'm working recently. So there are some 30,000 files I need to validate. 30,000, 30.
Okay.
So what happened for that? When I was taking the same get action as a collection action, so I'm going to get memory out of exception.
Okay.
So for that, what we have to implement the logic to get the data from 5,000. There are sometimes, and I increase to 10,000. So I'm trying to exit 10,000. So 10,000 also I got it. Sometimes I'm not getting. Sometimes again I reduce to 5,000. So 5,000 also sometimes getting, some say 90% I'm getting, 1% not getting. So I reduce 30,000, 3,000 now. 3,000 is properly I'm able to extract it. So when I run the bot, so every 3,000 records it will take. At 3,000 records it will take it and it will add to the queue. 3,000 records like that. From the queue we can able to take any number of data.
Okay, thank you.
So next class we start with this use case. You can see there is a data in this file. So here you can see there is a date, which is the old date. So this one I want to replace with the new date. So this is the use case. I will start with the next class. This is the data is there. So this is not in a data item. This complete data will come to the data item. Then how we have to evaluate this particular use case, we'll see in the next class. Whenever I run the bot, this date has to remove old date and it has to give the new date. Today is 24, right? So whenever I run the bot, so that particular date has to replace with this old date. So this is the logic. We'll do it in the next class. Any question? Please raise it. Yes. Done. Okay, guys.
So,
Yes. Yes.
no, Chilu, just a general question. All these bots we hear now, they're bots who are tweeting and retweeting and everything. So those can be also created through Prism or web-based bots.
Yes. 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 Everything web-based, browser-based, everything. So this is just a process here. I'm just started with the process studio now. Object studio now, where you have automated all the applications like browser-based applications, mainframes, SAP, everything you can able to automate. Now we are in the process studio. So most probably next week I will start. Next week in the second session I will start with the object studio. This is the object studio where we'll create the all the process objects, like interacting with any application. Third-party application is nothing but some browser-based applications, Windows-based applications, mainframes applications. These are all you can able to. Right? Guys, any question? Please feel free to ping me. So please try to install the software. No? So if you guys install and practice well, then I will start with the workflows. Otherwise, I will start with the business subject directly. So when you after the business subject, you should have some habituated towards the tool. Then only I can start with the workflows. Otherwise, again it will totally miss. Okay. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.